so let's get back to the hotline. We talked to one of my good guys, man, BP, man. He talks to me every single weekend on 92.3 The Fan. BP, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, G. Bush. How are you? It's great to be with you.
Hey, yeah, definitely, man. So, we talk all the time about, when you call up to the station to 92.3 The Fan, and we talk about it all the time, the Cavs. And talking a little bit about the Cavs, it's like, we look at this thing in 4 years. We look at where we were with LeBron and where we were with the championship team and where we've come. So, like, as one of the fans and one of the people who are really out there that's really supporting the team and one of the guys that really has season tickets and goes to a number of games. How can you describe the fall off between 16 and where we are in 2021?
I mean, it's been an avalanche of bad moves and bad news, and it's been unfortunately there's a timeline here, just like anything else. Like if you look at something in politics or in the world with the pandemic, there's a timeline for serious matters, and this is a serious matter. I mean, the Cavs are a billion-dollar entity. A lot of people rely on them for a lot of fun, and it takes you through the winter time.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been really disappointing, and it kind of starts with Dan Gilbert. He didn't want to pay David Griffin the proper amount of money back in 2017, so David Griffin decides to leave. Then Kyrie Irving was unhappy with the direction of the team. Maybe he didn't get along that great with LeBron. I kind of think Kyrie Irving went off and made that movie, and he kind of got like stars in his eyes. I think he wanted to be the guy. He didn't want to kowtow to LeBron. And now we're seeing that Kyrie is a different kind of person, different kind of cat.
Yeah, we started kind of that a little
and
bit.
It's a shame because I remember when they drafted him. I mean, I have pictures. I mean, that kid was unbelievable, must-see TV. I used to say he was like a magician with the basketball. He would, even though those teams were terrible, he was must-see TV. And, when Kyrie decided to leave, that was the beginning of the unraveling of this championship team. And then, they made that trade, for Isaiah Thomas. And again, not the good Isaiah Thomas, the short one.
Yeah, not the bad boy Isaiah Thomas. The guy who had 4 or 5 hip injuries that couldn't stick in Cleveland. Didn't stick in Denver. It's a shame that his career ended the way it was. I mean, at one point in time, we saw him playing in those Celtics series when he was getting 30 a game. I mean, he was dynamic, but injuries cut his playing career short. When you look at it now, we take a look at the Cavs, and you talked about Kyrie Irving, and you knew it when they drafted Kyrie. He was must see basketball. What are your thoughts on the two young guards that they have now? I mean, you have Garland and you have Sexton. Obviously, they're not up to the level of Kyrie Irving, but we've talked about this all the time. Do you think that marriage is going to work, especially in the backcourt with the Cavs?
Unfortunately, I mean, those guys are both talented guys. Colin Sexton, you got with the 8th pick in the draft, so he was not like a top 2 or 3 talent for player. He's a good player. Like, he's a nice player. He is. And Garland is also a nice player. He was a 5th pick in the draft. But nowadays, you need like the top 1, 2, or 3 guys in the draft to move the needle. And look at John Morant. I mean, that dude. The Memphis Grizzlies in the Western Conference are like 22 and 22. That Western Conference is a gauntlet. When the Cavs go out there on the road, they lose by 30. And
yeah.
They're getting their ass kicked. They went out to Utah the other night and they lost by 30. I had to turn the game off after the first quarter.
There was a joke on Twitter. Have you ever seen the Cavs win in Utah? I have not seen. Even when they had LeBron, they used to get beat bad in Utah, but that game I was watching, it's hard to watch some of these games because, I go back and forth as being a media guy. I go back and forth with a lot of people and I say, look, man, you gotta have a top 5 ball player. You gotta have a top 5 guy at one of those positions, preferably the guard position or a wing position. When you look at Isaac Okoro, what were your thoughts when they drafted him, and what has he shown you so far, as far as a young kid out of Auburn?
Unfortunately, during the process when the Cavs were gathering up all their information, everybody was calling Isaac Okoro 6'6". I've said all along that the Cavs need a 6'8" or taller wing player to make a difference. Isaac Okoro now is measured at 6'4".
Oh,
Basically, he's too small.
me and you talked about that. We were saying, I said, hey, BP, this kid is 6'4.5" on a good day. What Chuck Taylor's on. He is not 6'6". He is not 6'6".
Right. And in fact, yesterday's game, he was standing next to Matthew Dellavedova, and they were the same frickin' height. So that's not that exciting to me when my alleged, small forward of the future is supposed to be a defensive stopper like Kawhi Leonard. He's like basically as tall as my point guard.
Yeah, that's not going to work. It's not
the Cavs, Kobe Altman, again, is a nice person. But I think the Cavs, Dan Gilbert is a very wealthy man. In fact, his wealth, multiplied by 10 in the fall when he took Rocket Mortgage public. So he's worth like $40 billion now. Mm-hmm. He went from like $4 billion to $40 billion. He should go out there and find somebody else's general manager. I don't care if it's, look at Indiana Pacers. They got Kevin Pritchard. That guy's a good general manager. Let Dan Gilbert find a real general manager. Nothing against Kobe Altman.
The thing comes out about his son being, the heir apparent at 23 years old, and a lot of people gave me they didn't really give me any grief. They said, well, how worse could it be? My thought process is this, man. When I was 23 years old, I was chasing girls at Ohio University, trying to play football, lifting weights, and doing stuff like that. There was no way that I was, and you know how it is. When you talk about basketball, you need to be able to maneuver, get pieces through trades, there's so many minute details in which you can manipulate the roster. And I don't know if a 23-year-old is going to, obviously have the wherewithal to even know if Kobe Altman or the next general manager is doing what he needs to do to even call him out and say, hey, we can't do that move, or yes, pull the trigger on this move. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you reported it. I heard it from you that, the Cavs and Dan Gilbert had a sort of a succession plan in place with Grant, Gilbert, and, 23 years old is way too young to be, running a $2 billion organization, especially in this competitive environment. So I'm not happy about that, but Dan Gilbert's probably going to own this team as long as he wants. Dan Gilbert's a very successful person. And, going back a couple of years ago, I said on the record, I wouldn't mind if Dan Gilbert owned the Cleveland Indians. That's how, because the Indians I'd rather take Dan Gilbert than those Dolans any day of the week.
Listen, I tell you what, you all the way on a whole nother topic. It's opening day a couple days ago or just yesterday, but I will tell you what, that is exactly what the Cleveland Indians need, because the Cleveland Indians need somebody with deep pockets. If you are in the baseball game, we need a guy like Gilbert to have deep pockets so you can do this, and you look what the Mets have done. They've arguably just bought themselves right into a way of being in contention. So in baseball, you got to have deep pockets.
And in fact, just to interrupt, I mean, I've actually reached out to A-Rod and Mark Cuban. I sent them emails like, hey, guys, why don't you look into buying the Cleveland Indians? I mean,
that's how you want it. That's how tough it is.
And I was like, yeah, let's get A-Rod in here and, let's get some real ownership here with some real money. I get that Indians organization is a good organization.
Yeah, they got a farm system. They can develop players. They get pitchers. They get pitchers every year. They're going to get two.
Like yesterday, they started a center fielder guy. He looks like somebody just picked him off the softball league.
Yeah. Now their outfielders, their position players are a whole nother situation. Let me ask you this before we get out of here really quickly. Let me ask you this question. You saw what the Cavs did with Andre Drummond, and he's out there playing in LA now. What do you make of the move of bringing in Drummond? Which move you like better? You like the Drummond move in LA, or do you like the LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin move with Brooklyn?
Drummond, I actually stayed up late to watch Drummond's debut for the Lakers.
I remember you tweeted that. Yeah.
It was very disappointing. Because, Drummond, what's funny, the Cavs they've won 17 games so far this year, but I looked it up. And a lot of people said, hey, that's pretty good for this kind of, ragtag bunch of Cavaliers. But actually, Drummond won them 10 games out of those 17. That's over 60%. So, you know, a lot of these guys were, yeah, the Cavs were pretty competitive. They're really not. Drummond steered them to those 10 wins, and it all ended like around Valentine's Day when he was, you know, sat down for good. You know, Drummond is he's a throwback to Bob Lanier, Walt Bellamy. You know, I don't even know if, you know, you've heard of those guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, Bob Lanier, you know, he played in he was in the league office for a lot of years. After that's what I knew him of. But my dad always talks about Bob Lanier and talk about not being 6 foot, 10. Bob Lanier was 6'6", rooting people around, like getting his money off. But yeah, he's a throwback. Drummond's a throwback. The one thing that Drummond always had was a level of athleticism that helped him out a little bit. And I've always said, kind of like Dwight Howard, when that athleticism kind of wanes and goes away, what kind of game do you have left when that game ends? When you look at it, do you still see that, when LeBron comes back, Lakers get healthy? How do you see this thing playing out in the finals?
Oh, to be honest, I think LeBron will come back healthy. Anthony Davis will come back healthy. Remember, they got Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, KCP. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say his name; it'll take too long.
You got to have a couple. You got to have a whole bridge for that. Kentavious Caldwell Pope. It sounds like a law firm.
Like good. It's just, I think it'll be the Lakers and the Nets. That's going to be must-see TV. And I mean, I'll look forward to that for sure. I'll watch it. And yeah. I like what the Nets. LaMarcus Aldridge last night had about 14 points and 8 rebounds. He looked pretty damn good.
Couldn't miss. All of a sudden, BP Blake Griffin can dunk. LaMarcus Aldridge now has his 15 to 16 footer back, and it looks like they're ready to go. Right? Ready to go.
Also, Victor Oladipo had a nice game last night for the Miami Heat. He dunked in the first. Don't sleep on the Miami Heat. They've got a pretty good squad now with Jimmy Butler and Adebayo and Victor Oladipo. I mean, when you look at the Celtics, they've got 2 young All-Stars and they're struggling. So how are the Cavs gonna survive when they don't have any All-Stars?
See, this is why. Thank you. It's the lowest common denominator here. And BP, I appreciate your honesty and candor because I think you summed up this whole section. If the Boston Celtics are struggling with 2 All-Stars having the best careers of their life, what do you think the Cavs are going to be doing with a 6'4" wing that can't shoot, an undersized backcourt? They look like an AAU team. I told you, and a boring AAU team at that. So we got some stuff to do, man.
And I'll leave on this note. What do you think if Gonzaga, who has gone undefeated this whole season, they're like 29-0. They're going to be playing tomorrow night. They're 14-point favorites against UCLA. They've won 27 games in a row by double digits. Did you know that?
That's crazy. I didn't know they won that many games by double digits.
Right. So what do you think if Gonzaga played the Cleveland Cavaliers tomorrow night? Who would win? That's my question to you.
is who I think here's the thing. I think they would have a problem I think Colin Sexton would score a lot. I think Jared Allen would have a lot of points. I think the Cavs will win, but I think it'd be close. I think it'd be close. It'd be close though. It wouldn't be no blowout. It'd be close. Like it'd be real close. I'll put that to you.